Today we start with chapter electrostatics, in which we discuss about frictional electricity, properties of electric charges, Coulomb's law in vector form, units of charge, relative permittivity or dielectric constant, and continuous charge distribution. Frictional electricity. Frictional electricity is the electricity produced by rubbing two suitable bodies and transfer of electrons from one body to another. Here we take glass rod and silk. When we rub glass rod with silk, then electrons in glass are loosely bound in it than the electrons in silk. So when the glass and silk are rubbed together, the comparatively loosely bound electrons from glass get transferred to silk. So glass becomes positively charged and silk becomes negatively charged. Same when we take ebonite rod and flannel, and ebonite rod is rubbed with flannel, then flannel becomes positively charged because flannel loses electrons. And ebonite rod becomes negatively charged because ebonite rod gains electrons. It is very important to note that the electrification of the body is due to transfer of electrons from one body to another. If the electrons are transferred from a body, then the deficiency of electrons makes the body positive. And if the electrons are gained by the body, then the excess of electrons makes the body negative. Here there is a table in which there are two columns. In column 1, there are some substances, and in column 2 also there are some substances. When the substance which is in column 1, that is to say glass, is rubbed with the silk, then glass becomes positively charged and silk becomes negatively charged. When ebonite rod is rubbed with polythene, the ebonite rod becomes positively charged and polythene becomes negatively charged. So column 1 item becomes positively charged and column 2 item becomes negatively charged. Now properties of charges. There are two types of charges. One is positive and the second one is negative. Like charges repel each other and unlike charges attract each other. Charge is a scalar quantity and it is additive in nature. Additive in nature means when we add 2 coulomb charge, 5 coulomb and -3, then it gives you 4 because positive charge 2 and 5 are positive. It gives you 7. 7 minus 3, it is 4 coulomb. Next is charge is quantized. The smallest value of charge, that is the charge on one electron, is 1.6 into 10 to the power minus 19 coulomb. If any substance loses one electron, then the charge on that substance becomes 1.6 into 10 to the power minus 19 coulomb positive charge. If it loses 2 electrons, then the charge on that substance becomes twice of this charge. This means charge is quantized. It is in the form of discrete packet. And the value is Q is equal to plus minus Ne. Because any substance loses 1 electron or 2 electron or 3 electron, or it gains 1 electron or 2 or 3, where N is 1, 2 and 3. Charge is conserved. The algebraic sum of positive and negative charges in an isolated system remains constant. When we have taken a glass rod and it is rubbed with silk, then negative charge appears on the silk and equal amount of positive charge appears on the glass rod. The quantity of charge on silk and glass rod is same, but the nature of charge is opposite to each other. The net charge on the glass silk system remains 0 before also and after also, because before rubbing both are neutral. After rubbing, one becomes positively charged and second becomes negatively charged. The quantity of positive charge is same as the quantity of negative charge. That's why we say that the charge is conserved. Now come to Coulomb's law. Coulomb's law is for force between 2-point charges. Let us consider two charges. One is Q1 and second one is Q2. They are separated to each other by a distance r. It was observed experimentally that the force between two charges is directly proportional to the product of the two charges. That is to say, F is proportional to Q1, Q2. And force is inversely proportional to the square of the distance between the charges. R is the distance between the two charges. That's why F is proportional to 1 over R square. When we combine these two, then we get F is proportional to Q1, Q2 over R square. When we remove proportionality sign, we use a constant K. That is F is equal to K Q1, Q2 over R square, where K is proportionality constant. For vacuum, the value of K is 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught, where epsilon naught is the permittivity of free space. But if we place these two charges in any other medium, then the value of K for other medium is 1 upon 4 pi epsilon, where epsilon is the absolute electric permittivity of the medium in which the charges are placed. This is the definition of relative permittivity or dielectric constant. It is the ratio of permittivity of that medium to the permittivity of a vacuum. K is equal to epsilon upon epsilon naught, where epsilon is the permittivity of the medium and epsilon naught is the permittivity of vacuum or free space. Now we write Coulomb's law for vacuum and for medium. When we take two charges in vacuum, the value of the Coulomb's force is F is equal to 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught Q1, Q2 over R square. But when we place these charges in a medium at same distance, then the value of epsilon naught is changed. In place of epsilon naught, we have to write epsilon, the permittivity of that medium, or we can write according to this formula, epsilon r is equal to epsilon upon epsilon naught, then epsilon is equal to epsilon naught into epsilon r. That's why we have written here epsilon naught into epsilon r. Means for vacuum it is epsilon naught, and for any other medium it is epsilon, and the value of the epsilon is epsilon naught into epsilon r, and Q1 Q2 over R square. The value of permittivity in free space is 8.8542 into 10 to the power minus 12 Coulomb square, Newton inverse meter to the power minus 2. For this, we take approximation also. 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught is equal to 8.9875 into 10 to the power 9. This epsilon naught is constant. When we substitute the value of the epsilon naught here, pi is 3.14. Then the value of 1 upon epsilon 4 pi epsilon naught, that is to say K, comes out to be this. And approximation we take as 9 into 10 to the power 9. In place of 8.98, we write 9. That's why the value of 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught is 9 into 10 to the power 9. Why the unit is Newton meter square Coulomb to the power minus 2? See from here, from this formula, F is equal to 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught Q1 Q2 over R square. Take epsilon naught on left hand side, F and F in the denominator. Q1 Q2 means Coulomb into Coulomb, that is Coulomb square, right, upon meter square, and F comes in the denominator, then Newton. That's why the unit of epsilon naught is this Coulomb square, Newton inverse, meter minus 2. If we want to calculate the unit of 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught, then it is the reciprocal of this unit. Coulomb square, Newton inverse, meter minus 2. Take the reciprocal of this, then you will get Coulomb minus 2, Newton and meter square. Now come to Coulomb's law in vector form. Again, we take two charges. First is Q1 and second is Q2, separated by distance r. If we write in vector form, then direction from charge 1 to charge 2 is r12. See this blue arrow. The direction of distance from charge 1 to charge 2 is r12. Now, see here, because the two charges are positive charges, that's why they repel each other. F12 and F21, they are opposite to each other and they are repelling each other because they are away from each other. F12 is the force experienced by charge 1 due to 2 and F21 is the force experienced by charge 2 due to charge 1. Quantity wise, these two forces are same, but direction wise, they are opposite to each other. Now, one very important concept. If the product of two charges is greater than 0, the product of two charges is greater than 0 in which Q1, Q2 both are positive or both are negative. When Q1, Q2 both are positive, then positive multiplied by positive, it gives greater than 0. If both the charges are negative, then also the product is positive. So it shows that when Q1, Q2 product is greater than 0, then the force is a repulsive force because both the charges are similar charges. Now again come to this point. F12 is equal to 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught, Q1, Q2 upon R square. This is the magnitude of force. Now this is R2 cap. R2 cap is the unit vector along R21. R12 is from 1 to 2. Therefore, R21 is from 2 to 1. And direction of F12 and the direction of R21 is same. That's why F12 is in the direction of R21. Now come to F21 force. Again, magnitude is same, 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught Q1 Q2 over R square. But the direction is R12. Now see this force F21. This is F21, or you can take this also. Similar thing, this is between two positive charges and this is between two negative charges. See the direction. This is F21 and the direction of R12 is same. That's why we have taken F21 is in the direction of R12. Now take another case. When the product of the two charges is less than 0. This means one is positive and another one is negative. When Q1 is positive and Q2 is negative, then they are dissimilar charges and the force of attraction will act. See the figure. Q1 is positive and Q2 is negative. They are attracting each other. They are coming towards each other, opposite to first one, right? Now again see, F12 is towards Q2 and F21 is towards Q1. The distance between two is again R. Now here, see one thing which is different from first case. The direction of F12 magnitude is same, 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught Q1 Q2 over R square. But see the direction of F12. Now the direction of F12 is in the direction of R12. That's why here we have taken R12 cap. Now see second one. F21 is equal to 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught Q1 Q2 over R square. This is magnitude. Now F21 is in the direction of R21 cap. Why? F21 is from Q2 to Q1, means minus Q2 to Q1, and R21 is also from Q2 to Q1. That's why the direction of F21 is same as the direction of R21. Now see here in this figure or in the figure first, second or third. In all these cases, F12 and F21, they are opposite to each other. This means the force is attractive or the force is repulsive. The direction of the two forces are opposite to each other. Magnitude wise, they are same, but direction wise, they are opposite. See the first figure, F12 and F21 direction is opposite to each other. Charges are similar. They are repelling each other. In the case of attraction also, the direction of the two forces are opposite. See the figure? Direction of F12 is opposite to direction of F21. Now see here, again the same thing, formula for F12. 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught q1 q2. Now we have taken r cube. Why we have taken r cube? Because we have substituted the value of unit vector. Unit vector is vector upon its modulus. That's why r12 cap becomes r12 vector upon r. That's why this becomes r cube. In second formula also, F21 is equal to 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught q1 q2 upon r21 vector upon r cube, right? Because r21 cap is equal to r21 vector over r, right? Now units of charge. There are different units of charge. In SI system, its unit is coulomb. Now come to the definition part. 1 coulomb of charge is that charge which when placed at rest in vacuum at a distance of 1 meter from an equal and similar stationary charge repels it and is repelled by it with a force of 9 into 10 to the power 9 Newton. We can explain this with the help of this formula. F12 is equal to 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught q1 q2 upon r cube r12 vector, or even r square also. Then we take r12 cap. 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught is 9 into 10 to the power 9. If we take q1 1 coulomb and q2 also 1 coulomb, and the distance between them is 1 meter. R is 1 meter, Q1 is 1 coulomb, Q2 is 1 coulomb. Then the value of F12 becomes 9 into 10 to the power 9. Because the value of 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught is 9 into 10 to the power 9. That's why it is written 1 coulomb of charge is that charge which when placed at rest in vacuum at a distance of 1 meter, we have taken r is equal to 1 meter from an equal and similar stationary charge. Equal means 1 coulomb charge. Repels it and is repelled by it with a force of 9 into 10 to the power 9, because the value of 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught is 9 into 10 to the power 9. The CGS unit of charge is stat coulomb or ESU. In CGS system, this 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught, which is K, it is equal to, for vacuum, the value of K is 1. That's why we can write the formula F is equal to Q1 Q2 over R square. Otherwise, we use this formula in SI system only. Now, these are certain conversions. 1 EMU, electromagnetic unit of charge, is C. C means speed of light. CESU, electrostatic unit. 1 EMU, these are conversions. 3 into 10 to the power 10 ESU of charge. 1 coulomb of charge is 3 into 10 to the power 9 stat coulomb. This is CGS system. Now come to relative permittivity or dielectric constant. Dielectric constant is the ratio of two permittivity. Actually, dielectric constant is the relative permittivity. Means relative means permittivity of medium to the permittivity of free space. Permittivity of the medium is epsilon and permittivity of vacuum or space is epsilon naught. So dielectric constant is the ratio of permittivity of medium to the permittivity of free space. We can define this in another form also. The dielectric constant or relative permittivity or specific inductive capacity or dielectric coefficient, these are different names of one term, can also be defined as the ratio of electrostatic force in vacuum, FV, electrostatic force between two charges when they are placed in vacuum, that is FV, and Fm is the electrostatic force between two charges when they are placed in any other medium, because F is inversely proportional to epsilon. Here this is epsilon and this is epsilon naught. Here vacuum is in numerator because F vacuum or F is inversely proportional to epsilon naught. Here epsilon naught is in denominator, that's why F is in numerator, because it is 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught Q1 Q2 over R square. Everything will be cancelled out except epsilon and epsilon naught. Right? That's why we have written that it is inversely proportional. Epsilon naught is in the denominator. When you take the ratio, you substitute the value. So you substitute the value of FV and substitute the value of FM. Everything will be cancelled out. And again, you get the same answer, that is epsilon upon epsilon naught. Now come to continuous charge distribution. We have studied about point charge. Q is the point charge. Now we will take Q as continuous charge. It is not a point charge. Any charge which covers a space with dimensions much less than its distance away from an observation point can be considered a point charge. A system of closely spaced charges is said to form a continuous charge distribution. There are three types of charge. First is line charge, second is area charge, and third is volume charge. Area charge we take as surface charge also. Line charge. Line charge means let us consider a charge in the form of a line. There is any line, any wire, the charge on that wire is Q and the length of that wire is L. Now see this. If the charge is distributed over a straight line or over the circumference of a circle, because it is also a length, or over the edge of a cuboid, means sides, then the distribution is called linear charge distribution. Density. Linear charge density is charge per unit length. Unit is coulomb upon meter. Charge is coulomb and length is meter. That's why coulomb per meter. What is linear charge density? Linear charge density is represented by lambda. Lambda is equal to Q over L. Q is the total charge on length L. Total charge divided by length gives you linear charge density. Now we write this in the form of dq over dl. Suppose the charge is in the form of a line. We take a small length element dl, and the charge on that small length element dl is dq. Then linear charge density is dq divided by dl. Small length charge is small, that is dq. Now, if we want to calculate Q, then we write this as dq is equal to lambda dl, cross multiply kariye. dq is equal to lambda dl. If we want to calculate Q, then we have to integrate it. Q is equal to integral lambda dl. By this formula, we will get the total charge. So lambda is linear charge density when total charge is Q and total length is L. Now come to next, that is surface charge density. Surface charge density is represented by sigma. If the total charge on the surface is Q and the surface area is S, then surface charge density is total charge divided by surface area. Sigma is equal to Q over S, right? The charge, see this figure, the charge is distributed on the surface. We take any surface. Now we take a small surface represented by yellow dot. Inside the yellow dot, the surface is ds. And the charge on this small ds area is dq. Then surface charge density sigma is equal to dq over ds. The amount of charge divided by surface. If you cross multiply it, you will get dq is equal to sigma ds. Again, when we want to calculate the total charge on the surface, then we have to integrate it. Integral of dq is dq and integral s means along surface. Sigma ds. Now, next one is the volume charge. Volume charge density is represented by rho. Now the charge is distributed according to volume. See this figure. This is any cube or you can take cuboid. The charge is distributed according to volume. Suppose Q is the charge on this cube, right? Q is the charge. Then how you calculate? Rho is equal to Q over V. Take this as V. Rho is equal to Q over V, right? Now consider small volume. The value of that volume is dV. And quantity charge is dq. Small quantity of charge is dq. Then volume charge density is dq divided by dv. Again the same thing. Cross multiplied, dq is equal to rho dv, or you can get total q is equal to integral of rho dv, right? For volume charge density, unit is coulomb per meter cube. For surface charge density, coulomb per meter square. For line charge density, it is coulomb per